Chapter 1 is an introduction to chemistry and the scientific method. As a definition, chemistry is the study of matter, but we're not just interested in the physical properties of matter. The more important part of the definition is the changes in that matter. What you're going to learn later on this semester is that the structure of chemicals, for example, on the left you have carbon dioxide, which is made up of 3 atoms, and on the right you have water, which is made up of 3 atoms. So in that sense, they're similar structures, but if you look, carbon dioxide is linear, water has the 3 atoms in a bent shape. The structure of chemicals is going to determine both their physical and their chemical properties. Chemical properties is called the reactivity. So even though these two molecules have some similarities, carbon dioxide, which you're going to learn, we're going to write as CO subscript 2, and water, H subscript 2O, they have very different properties and reactivities. The scientific method is a process that's used to try to understand nature. The parts of the scientific method include making observations, creating an hypothesis based on those observations, designing and carrying out experiments, and then ultimately forming laws and theories. The parts of the scientific method are shown on this diagram from the textbook. The important thing for you to remember is the relationships in this chart below. So if you're describing what happens, and this applies to a small number of events, that would be the definition of an observation. If you're trying to explain why something happens, and that applies to a small number of events, that is the hypothesis. Things that apply to all events. So describing what happens that describes all events would be a law. And explaining why things happen, that would be a theory, which in everyday language, a theory sounds like it's something that is just a guess or an approximation. But in science, theory has a much more rigorous definition, which is the explanation of why something happens. So this will make more sense when you read through chapter 1. Chapter 1 is a short little chapter. Not any problems really in chapter 1. So we'll get into the main part of the actual chemistry in chapter 2.